Good day, viewers, and welcome to today's SportWrap show. I'm your host, Lemba Mupetami. Now, without wasting any time, let's get into today's hit list. International boxers who are scheduled to partake in these weekends together as one Part 8 boxing bonanza are all expected to arrive in Windhoek tomorrow. This is according to the organizer, that of course is Nestor Tobias. Tobias further said that preparations for the bonanza have been going extremely well. Now, Namibian international footballer Peter Shalulile is out with injury, with no clarity from his club, Mamelodi Sundowns, of what caused the injury or how long he will be out of action. The Namibian, who was last year's top goal scorer, has enjoyed being at the top of the goal-scoring chart since the DStv Premiership started. However, the likes of Kaizer Chiefs' Bonfels Penyema and SuperSport's Bradley Krobler have caught up with him, having also scored 6 goals each since Shalulile hasn't featured in matches and thus not had any opportunity to score. Now, this year's South African Top 8 Cup final will feature 2 Namibian internationals after Dion Hotto's Orlando Pirates and Rian Hanamup's AmaZulu emerged victorious from their semi-finals over the weekend. Furthermore, the Nedbank Desert Dash, an iconic event considered by many who have either completed the race or intend to tackle it as a bucket list challenge, gears for December. The Desert Dash attracts cyclists from Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Botswana, Germany, Portugal, the United States of America, and Switzerland. This year's event will take place starting on the 9th of December till the 10th. Well, here's a short clip from the launch. Have a look at this.
This year, the 8th edition of the Nedbank Desert Dash is taking place on the 9th to the 10th of December 2022. This is the longest single-stage mountain bike race in the world, covering over 393 kilometers between Windhoek and Swakopmund.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Indeed, it's an honor to deliver the keynote address at such a prestigious event. The Nedbank Desert Dash is the longest single-stage mountain bike race in the world and celebrates its 18th consecutive year and its 8th edition under the title sponsorship of Nedbank Namibia, which has also invested over 8 million since it took over the title sponsorship 8 years ago, where most of the cycling events are hosted in and around Windhoek. Nedbank Namibia is the biggest contributor to the Namibian cycling fraternity. The bank's cycling sponsorship includes the Nedbank Cycling Challenge, which has been in existence for over 30 years. The Nedbank Windhoek Pedal Power Race Series, the Nedbank Rock and Rad XC Series, and the CAC African MTP Championship. The Nedbank Desert Dash co-sponsors also include SuperSpar, Maiwa and Groove, and Dongo Toyota and Holland. This year, Nedbank Desert Dash takes place from the 9th to the 10th of December, departing from Windhoek Groove Mall on Friday the 9th of December 2022 and arriving in Swakopmund at the Platz A Meer on Saturday the 10th of December 2022. In conclusion, allow me to congratulate Nedbank Namibia and its stakeholders for this initiative, and to all participants from the Namibia and the represented countries. I wish you a safe journey with Almighty Lord's favor and protection. With these few words, I wish you all the best, and I thank you.
With that, let's go for a short ad break. Once we return, we cross over to the Golden Oldies segment of the show. Coming up next is a recap interview with the Minister of Sports, Agnes Tjongarero, speaking all things sports and what one can do in the industry to rather allow the sports different sectors to flourish. So please check this out. All right, so welcome viewers. We are joined by the Minister of Sports, Agnes Tjongarero, just to speak to us about, what she's been busy with currently, and for you to find out who the minister is when she's not in the office. Now, to start off, welcome to the show, Minister. Correctly, 2015 until 2020, and before that, you held several portfolios in sports as well. Now, why and what would you say made you get involved in sports?
Actually, if you say get involved, it sounds a little bit different. But from my schooling days, I just loved sport. And I must say, I'm one of those very first black people who played tennis. Tennis was not in our communities. We owned the two sport codes mostly, or three. It was netball for women, football for the boys, and athletics, mix, that was that. Not swimming and all these tennis things, but from the very beginning, I was one of those who played tennis, actually. So sport was something I just loved to do. I was not good in athletics, I tried and I was not so good, so I dropped that one. To try and put up structures. I mean structures in the bodies of the executives and so on for the different federations and so on.
Okay, so since taking office as the Minister of Sports, how has that been so far for you? A lot of times when men find women in the sports fraternity, their assumption is always that we don't know anything about sports. Now, you being the first female sports minister of Namibia, would you say that your experience has been different? How do the male counterparts maybe react to you?
We assume some of these things. It is like that. That a male counterpart will think she doesn't know anything or she doesn't know anything about sport. So I'll ask him, we'll talk. And there are certain things I will say about cricket that he doesn't know. Then he realized, here, it is what you know and what you can do, which will convince the male counterpart and see, no, we are on an equal path here. But if you don't know, you only know netball, or you only know something about a little bit of football, you cannot even convince him when he's the offside or not. Then you will say, this woman doesn't know, but when you can, and we have to do all we can to know our level, where are we, and we can be equal with them. And they will realize and have respect for the women. If they realize that this woman know more in golf more than me, or cricket more of me, or more than me, swimming, hockey, just call it. Just name it. And then they will realize, no.
Okay, now since having taken office, what would you say has been one of your biggest projects so far?
There's a project hanging for 7 years, I'm ashamed to say that I don't know. Maybe the reason I said, like, some of us came for a job and not for a passion, and that one is the amendment of the Sport Act. It's old, it's outdated, but I've been trying and trying. Now recently I was told it's with the Office of the Justice. I hope it is there. Now, many times I cannot go and dig deep. Then I'm being told that I'm interfering in the work of the administrators. And that is the biggest frustration I'm having at the moment. There's no proper sport policy. There's no proper sport act. We don't have sport rules and regulations. We don't have. We are working on those outdated things. But after many meetings with the different bodies, like the Olympic Committee, Sport Commission, the Directorate of Sport, there were several, from the time with, I think this Dr. Bay, who was the director of sport. There were meetings held in Ochibarongo, there were meetings held in Greaters, whatever place here outside Windhoek. Meetings were held in Hobabes, wherever. I don't know why we are so still struggling to get new things in, like the Sport Act, the policy, sport policy, the rules and regulations, which goes with, those three things actually go hand in hand.
I think you can influence an increase, for when the new budget is being tabled?
I can only try my best. I can only try my best, but now you can see that with the reduction, as it came to be reduced, even the performance of the athletes are also coming down, because it's not just that you go and get a medal. It takes many years to build the athlete up to the level to get a medal. But if you, let's say now we came back now from the Commonwealth, we know after 4 years there will be Commonwealth in Australia. We know. Now it's for us to build. We have to build, but to build that athlete up till there, we must have the funding. Now, it's a pity that when the athletes have to go out for Commonwealth or for Olympics, we will come highway or whatever, we will find the money and send them to do what? If we have not prepared them. Because for the athlete, you prepare the athlete to qualify first. Now that athletes have qualified, after qualification, the athlete must prepare. You don't prepare in 2 days. All the other countries, when they went there, and that is what we are going to do next week, we are going to have a meeting to start planning and say now, okay, we have got Ananias is getting old. Who's the next one following Ananias? We have got Hilaria Johannes. She's getting also, I don't say old in that sense, but for the track, the years. The other ones are coming. Where are ours? Who are they? Where around are they? And what are we going to do with them now? I wish it was a longer time. I could have tell you more things.
I'm going to set up another interview, and then we can talk more on what the minister is busy with and all of that.
But before we close, I'll really plead with my countrymen that whenever we elect people into positions, let's try and elect people who, in the first place, I might know the sport, maybe, but it's not my passion. Don't put that person there. Secondly, if the person doesn't have a clue, don't put that person there. It just delays and it frustrates even the athletes. Because sometimes the athlete knows more than the whoever the leadership. And the other thing which I didn't touch on and I want to say about this, we don't have, or we might have, some coaches in the regions. That's our downfall also. If we can have, and that is what we are going to plan as from next week, is I want, and I've been preaching this since I became a deputy, let's train coaches for the regions. Coaches in the regions. Let's have one senior coach, or whatever you call it, overall coach, made by in Windhoek. But let's train coaches, because our athletes are there. If we have coaches in the regions, they will bring up and bring out those athletes we are looking for. You cannot do it from Windhoek. You cannot do from Windhoek, you go to come and look where is the athlete. You won't do it. It's not, no. And then we have actually to work as coaches together closely with the schools. When there's a schools meet, when the schools have their athletics or whatever, go and sit and look and see what is happening there. But in the regions, we are not having many or enough coaches. We are having sport officers in the regions. But I can tell you, many of the sport officers, if you ask something about cricket, will not tell you, but can tell you about football. But those times, when these sport officers were deployed or appointed, it was more football. So many of them know football, but not even athletics. So that is one of our drawbacks, that we don't have enough coaches in the regions.
Up next is the Spotlight segment of the show, and we have Rohlisang Ramakhutlha, one of the managers at Geneva Events, speaking about their plans around 5 November's Dr. Hage Geingob Rugby Cup, which will feature, of course, a rugby match between the Tafelaga Griquas and the Welwitschias of Namibia. Here's a short interview with Ramakhutlha. So the Dr. Hage Geingob Rugby Cup is coming up on the 5th of November. In studio today, we are joined by one of the managers, and that, of course, is Ms. Rohlisang Ramakhutlha, to speak to us about how Geneva Events got involved in organizing this spectacular event. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, just take us through, how did you guys get involved?
So Geneva Events is a fully fledged events management company based here in Windhoek. So we have been organizing the Dr. Hage Geingob Cup for the past 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
All right. So now, of course, the cup is moving from having previously been, involved with football to now rugby. So is that any difference maybe for you guys that are organizing the events? Will that be any trouble at all?
I would like to think that it is just to involve all the different types of sports and the different types of crowds that we find in Namibia. So it's not just limited to soccer alone. We also have a huge rugby following, and we actually perform really well in rugby as well.
So just to take us through some of the events that you guys have most probably covered in the past.
Sure, we do everything. So from year-end functions to fully fledged festivals. Yeah, we do it all.
All right, so speaking about events, and of course, if you're putting together an event of this magnitude, then there must be artists as well that will be performing on the day.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take us through some of those names.
So we'll be having the very young and vibrant group, the Musketeers. We'll be having Von Arends. He sings very soulful, very beautiful music. We'll be having Rush, as well as Mr. Makoya from the Matongo family.
Of course. Now, fans that are listening to, rugby fans rather, that are listening to this interview right now, why should they come to the stadium?
Why not? They should come and watch the Windhoek Draft Griquas facing off the Windhoek Draft Welwitschias. I think it's a match of a lifetime. It's Namibia basically versus South Africa. They need to show up in numbers. They need to show that we have a strong support system, and scream for our team.
Okay, so the details surrounding the ticket sales and whatever, is all of that already sorted out?
Yes, it is sorted out. We have competitions running on our social media as well. If you go to our page, Geneva Events on Instagram, you'll see that we have competitions running where you could possibly win tickets. In terms of ticket pricing, you can get your tickets at Web Tickets, which is at any Pick and Pay. So for adults, it's 14 Namibian dollars. For students, it's 20 Namibian dollars, and children under the age of 6 enter for free.
Now, speaking about you, are you a rugby fan?
Absolutely.
Which team do you support?
Of course, Namibia.
All right. So you're going to be at the event that day, of course.
Yes.
Are we expecting to see you wearing a Welwitschias shirt?
I don't want to be biased. No, I will not be wearing a specific shirt, but I will be cheering for a specific team.
Okay, maybe any last message to the fans that are watching?
Just for them to know that it takes place on the 5th of November. That's a very important detail at the Hage Geingob Stadium in Olympia. The gates open at 10 a.m., but the match starts at 4 o'clock. But you can come earlier so that you can obviously witness all the performances, just build up the feel for the day, basically. Yeah.
Well, we expect to see you at the stadium.
Thank you very much.
Up next is a special cricket segment. Please don't go away.
I'm gonna cross that river, Jordan. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
South Africa's match against Zimbabwe was washed out at Hobart on Monday, chasing a target of 80. Kuninda Kok put South Africa firmly in control with 23 runs from the first over before the rain played spoil sport. After a short break, the rain relented, but 2 overs were lost, with South Africa needing 64 runs from 7 overs. Ultimately, the rain came back again, leading to a washout, and the points were shared. Earlier, Zimbabwe were in trouble at one point in the match, losing 4 wickets for just 19 runs. But a 5th wicket partnership from Wesley Matihevere and Milton Shamba gave the bowlers something to defend as they reached 79-5 in the rain-kettled match. That ends today's segment. Up next, we have more international news with none other than Ari Hochert.
I'm gonna cross that river, Jordan. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with cricket news. That's a T20 World Cup in Australia currently continuing, and it was the first game for Zimbabwe and South Africa that didn't end well. It was a no result because of rain in Hobart, and both teams now need to win all their games left in the tournament probably to qualify for the semi-finals. South Africa next play Bangladesh on Thursday, and also on Thursday it is Zimbabwe that play against Pakistan. The two teams, Zimbabwe and South Africa, they in Group 2, and the other teams, their strong teams, will be India as well. So tough games still to play for India, for South Africa and Zimbabwe. In Group 1, also a tough group. Just 2 of the 3 of New Zealand, England and host Australia can go through to the semi-finals. So that will also be a very competitive group with games left to play. And continuing international sports news with soccer news, it is the UEFA Champions League that continue. And games will be played in the week, and there's 5 teams that already qualified for the next round of the Champions League, and they are Real Madrid. They qualified in Group F, and in Group G it is Manchester City that's through. Group A saw Napoli already through to the next round, and then in Group B it is Club Brugge that is through, and Bayern Munich, also one of the early favourites, they're through in Group C. Some of the teams that can also go through is in Group A, it's Liverpool and Ajax fighting for that second spot. And then also Group C, very competitive there. It's also Inter Milan and Barcelona that still try to join Bayern Munich as the team that go through. Continuing international sports news with Formula One racing news, and it is the Formula One racing that will continue this coming weekend on Sunday. It is the Mexican Grand Prix that will be at the Autodrome Hermanos Rodriguez, that is in Mexico City. It's not going to make a difference on who win the individual or the team in this year's races. It already decided. It is Max Verstappen, the individual champion for 2022, and the Constructors' Championship already, that was won by Red Bull Honda. That was after the performance at Austin in the US Grand Prix the past weekend. In the news, however, is the decision of Formula One governing body that will make a decision for Red Bull Honda that went over the budget cap for 2021 season. and they will get a penalty for that. The budget cap was $145 million US, and it's reported by FIFA, or the Formula One governing body, that they went over the cap, and so there is a still sanction that must be given to Red Bull. It was delayed because on Saturday, just before the US Grand Prix, it was the co-owner of the Red Bull team. His name is Dietrich Matetic. He passed away, unfortunately, after a long battle with cancer. So the announcement was delayed. It is expected that it might also happen that Max Verstappen might lose his championship if points are deducted for them going over the limit for 2021, and also Lewis Hamilton indicated earlier that he said there should be a penalty for that. Still in news, principal of Red Bull Honda, that is Christian Horner, that he is adamant that his team is significantly under the budget cap. So that is an ongoing discussion, but that announcement is probably going to be made in this week. Closing off today's international sports news is tennis news. That's the Swiss Indoor Championship that's taking place in Basel at the moment. And the number one seed is Carlos Alcaraz. He's also the world number one seed. And he had a tough first round. He played against Jack Draper of Great Britain. Jack Draper is 45th in the world, but Draper won the first set by 6-3, and then it was Alcaraz that won the second 6-2, and the third by 7-5 to advance to the second round. The number two seed in the Swiss Indoor Tournament is Casper Ruud. He is from Norway. Also in the tournament is Andy Murray and Sebastian Korda, and also it is Stan Wawrinka has also entered into the tournament. That's the international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thanks, Ari. Please do catch us again tomorrow, same place, same time.